welcome everybody to the Next Rail Innovation Group podcast.
What has everyone been up to this week?
Painting, stripping wallpaper, and working. Worrying about the state of the rail industry.
Is it really bad?
Well,
some good announcements. That bridge to Ireland is getting studied.
Yes, that's true.
HS2 Western has been another consultation.
Yes, that's true.
Kintel Station open this week.
There has been some good, Midlands. I've been reading all about Midlands Connect's new consultation on their new ticketing, which is very interesting and a great segue to our project. But
I'd missed that. I have to look that up.
Oh, I will send you the link. It's quite interesting. Well, it's just good that actually there is some serious thought being given to this, all of those issues that, let's face it, if nothing else, this year has given them the opportunity to relook at those kind of things. So
yes, I went to a real life conference on a Tuesday, real life in-person conference with pastries and lunch.
Oh wow, amazing.
Probably won't
might be the last one for a while.
Yeah. Exactly, make the most of it. Hold that one in your head, Liam, because you won't be going to another one for a while.
Because I think when we met after your conference on Tuesday, I didn't think it was going, when I said tongue in cheek, this might be the last time I'm coming to London for a while, I didn't actually think it would be.
Yes.
Hey, it's just a short interlude.
Yes.
Could use the train.
I did use the train and it was empty.
So Deb, we won't have you for the main bit of our podcast with our guests today, but I'm looking forward to meeting with Infinitive Group, who are one of our founding members. So, Deb, what would you like us to ask them on your behalf?
I would like to ask them I would like you to ask them on my behalf. What have they felt as a business has been their biggest challenges over the last few months? And are they worried about pipeline of work and retention of staff going forward?
Ooh, all right.
See, now that's quite interesting, because there was the Rail Industry Association had some survey, didn't they, about SMEs and startups being worried about pipeline of work. So I think that's quite an interesting issue to explore, because I think most people were okay with where they were in the next 3 to 6 months, but is it going to dry up with, we just touched on, sort of like, the crisis in the rail industry? How long can we continue along a pipeline of work, particularly at SME level?
Well, we shall find out. But,
yes.
Thanks for joining us briefly, and enjoy your painting, Deb.
Thanks. Well, I've got lots of calls before that, but thank you. I'll send you some pictures. Very important calls. Vital. In fact, you could call them vital, I think.
Vital calls. Keep going.
Thank you, and have a lovely podcast, and I will speak to you soon.
Cool. Bye, Deb.
Bye.
Now, Johannah, we have our guest with us, who is Ben Craze from Infinitive Group. I know I should probably ask Ben to introduce himself, but I'm just going to start with Ben. I met years ago at Innertrans in 2016.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, I think we met one time before that, but yeah, it was the main introduction was Innertrans. I
just can't believe you met all that time, because it's funny, because I was just thinking recently about Innertrans and how the lovely Innertrans that there was in 2018. What a lovely week that was! How lovely the weather was, and how we didn't go this year.
Well, it's supposed to be rescheduled to April, so hopefully,
fingers crossed. We're meant to be exhibiting.
Well, you can tell us about that in a minute. But first of all, would you like to introduce yourself fully?
Hi, I'm Ben Craze, Chief Executive of Infinitive Group, who's an SME within the engineering and technology segment of the railway, and widening our reach, which we've recently looked to diversify with the current market space and the uncertainty that comes with emergency measures and transport being generally impacted through COVID. So we're looking at our diversification. But we originated and we started out as a startup in the rail sector. I've been working within the railway for around 16 years now. Started from the shop floor, working as a technician, all the way up to board level, and spun out into Infinitive Group back in 2014. And ever since then, we've had a wild ride and huge growth, and we're now transitioning into a fully fledged small medium enterprise, which has been a fantastic journey. So yeah, that's kind of an introduction to myself.
So has it been a challenging journey? I would know, because I guess you say you're growing from a startup to a fully fledged SME, and we'll explore sort of like what you're up to and you're pivoting on that. But how, I mean, not just within the context of this year, how is business, and how challenging has it been sort of like going from the corporate world into your own business and founding that?
Yeah, it has been quite challenging. I think the railway specifically is quite a close-knit industry. It's been very difficult to break. We overcome that. There was a lot of hard graft working through contacts, industry contacts that I have personally, to break and penetrate into the market space, which we were really fortunate that through all the years in which I had been working within the industry, we were able to break into that. But even still, it's been difficult getting credibility, getting people believing in challenging the status quo of what we're kind of really came about from. I was frustrated with the way that the industry appears to reward failure and appears to kind of award contracts to big corporates that just do the same old and expect something different on the output, whereas we're kind of challenging it. So trying to get that message. So whilst we're a startup moving into the SME world, having a grand vision of challenging an institution such as the railway has been an even bigger challenge for us, because it's a change of mindset, it's a change of culture, and there's a fear of change generally with the manner of change, but equally within the industry that has a wide history of they've always done it one way, and that's the way that they need to do it. And so changing that mindset has been an added challenge to just being a startup moving into the
I get what you're saying, both the business and the industry you're in. Timely to have this conversation, because you're talking about people being resistant to change, and at the moment everything is up in the air, so it's like it must be the most uncertain time for people who don't like uncertainty and change.
Yes.
So just for the listeners and people who aren't regular attendees at the Rail Innovation Group, what is Infinitive?
So Infinitive, we're an engineering and technology consultancy. We started out in the early days just mainly focusing on management and advisory services into the industry, focusing on around technology, people and process, and how best to adopt and amalgamate those three areas to start digital transformations within the organization. So we advise from C-level all the way down into sort of management. We primarily focus our attention around the rolling stock and the maintenance function and the operation of the rolling stock. So we don't necessarily touch the customer aspect. Ultimately, we get involved with making sure that the assets are reliable, available, and are maintained to the best possible way. We've now broadened our reach into our own products. We've now been developing our own product lines. This is all part of the diversification that we've been getting involved with and looking to spread across. So where we've been seeing weaknesses within the industry, we're now bringing that back into our own research and development, and our own investment in our own innovation ourselves through product development.
Right.
So that's kind of Infinitive. We're engineering and technology experts within the transport vertical.
Yeah, so that's quite an encouraging messaging. You've originally were just advisory, but now you've sort of done some innovation in-house to respond to the challenges. Can I ask you two questions? How's it been up until March, and then what's happened since March with the wider economy?
I don't know why I laughed there, because it's not funny, really, is it?
Well, we were so we've seen growth in 4-figure percentage figures up until March. So as I say, so we were really gaining some real good momentum with the messaging and the adoption of our services and the real change to the industry. March came along. At first, it didn't really impact us really, and I think there was a bit of a lag to the situation. But then, when all of the measures came in place for the lockdown and social distancing, that's really had an impact. Not so much on, as I said, we focus on assets and the rolling stock itself, but it's kind of affected the whole supply chain in that there's a lot of hesitance and uncertainty around, do we pay for the parts? How do we do that? And so we have had contracts that have been pushed out to the right, spend commitments that we previously had that were kind of almost a guarantee, cancelled or pushed out to the right. So actually things really did hit us quite significantly there. But on the same token, actually, through the huge growth that we have had, a 900 to 1,000% growth between year 2 and year 3, actually what we've done is we've been empowered to actually look at that and look back internally, look into the mirror and go, can we sustain a growth trajectory like that without looking inwards and making sure that we're putting all the foundations and the procedures and the business support foundations in place? And the answer is no, we couldn't have sustained that without having to do significant backwards underpinning within the business. So we've taken this time actually to look internally within the business to bolster it. So when we do get out of this and we've got some form of direction and course and speed from where the industry is going with the emergency measures and the changes that will bring, we are able to actually fly out of the fire in a much better position, so we can actually then get back into a growth trajectory as we previously were privileged enough to be on.
Okay, so it's interesting. Sorry, I think I'm speaking over you, Johannah, but it's interesting that you're taking this time to effectively have a platform for growth in future.
Yeah.
I think most of the conversations we have are with people developing products at the moment, whereas you're embedding your business for growth at some point.
Yeah, well, and we have invested in our talent for those products. So we have developed our own products as well. On the last discussions that we had, we were in the early stages of developing some of our sensor technology, which we've continued. So as much as we're developing and maturing the business from startup to SME, we have been working through all of the backlog of the opportunities to develop innovations to solve some of the industry challenges that we see. So we've invested, we've not let anyone go. We've actually employed more people. So we're really taking the opportunity to actually invest in what we believe in and make sure that when we're coming out of COVID and the uncertain times that we find ourselves in, we are best positioned, we're in pole position to make the next 4 or 5 plus years a huge success.
I guess some people might think that that's quite brave in the times that we are, because we are sort of like, we are starting to see some bad news in terms of employment and the economy and that. I mean, I think it's interesting that you are preparing yourself. I mean, do you think that your business is, would we say, COVID secure, and that the products that you're investing in, I mean, it would be interesting to hear some of the products that you are investing in and growing, do help us, grow the economy and also help the rail industry develop in some of, particularly in some of those frustrations that you said that you had in terms of it being risk averse and not agile enough in responding to what future customer need is?
Well, it's ironic. I never ever thought that the transport industry would ever be subject to the challenges that we're facing now. I always thought it was going to be an industry that would be recession proof, but this is unprecedented on a global pandemic. So I don't think anyone ever saw this. So are we COVID secure? We're COVID secure from an operational perspective and how our employees and associates working. So they're working in a very safe, COVID secure manner in that regard. But from an economic perspective, I don't think we are. I think that the whole industry is impacted. But what we've done as part of the diversification that we've done, by looking in the mirror and looking at who we are and how we can actually look at what we were doing, what we started to identify was actually when we were going to clients and offering our services in one way, there was a lot of things that we weren't touching because we didn't have the capability, or we didn't have the associated relationship. So we've now also, as part of this diversification, changed part of our approach, which is we're actually now starting to partner with some of the big people within the industry. So we've got the tools and capabilities. So we have mitigations in place, so we can take, as discussions and client requirements get understood, we can be agile and nimble to be able to respond to the requirements at that point in time through either our own competencies or partnering with the likes of DXC Technologies is one of our recent ones that we've partnered with, and we've been working doing some interesting work with them. We've also looking to partner with very, very good conversations with McLaren Applied Technologies and Lenovo, among lots of others that are on the horizon that we're currently working through. So that's kind of carved out this ecosystem that we're looking at, is that we've got a core competency and we're very specialist within the railway through technology and our subject matter expertise within the rail itself, but there are parts that we're not experts in, and we've accepted that, we've matured as a business, and where we don't have the necessary competency, we're growing our network to make sure that we can accommodate those accordingly.
Can I feel free not to answer this question, but you mentioned about engaging with larger companies. Do you get the sense, or have you got any feelers out for how larger companies feel about are SMEs in the transport sector still investable at the minute?
It's a really interesting question. So the reason why we've actually, during the process of looking at ourselves in the mirror, this was on the back of some really disappointing losses that we had from some large scale tender projects. And we looked at ourselves in the mirror and reflected upon why we lost these particular projects. And I think it was because the industry with the buyers use the term, well, we support SMEs, but it's kind of almost, we support SMEs and we'll give SMEs small projects, but big, scary projects that investors might get a bit nervous about actually is a turn-off. So I think from an investability in an SME or a startup within rail, I think in order to survive, you do need to partner. You do need to partner and kind of de-risk parts of that supply chain. So when there are shareholders and investors that are looking at these big projects, multi-million-pound projects, that on an SME that could go pop overnight, you're de-risking the supply chain. So having trusted partnerships where you've worked at an ability to actually understand one another, you complement each other with your skill sets, and you are actively going into something knowing the core competencies that you have between one another, I think is the key to being really a catalyst for innovation within the industry.
I think that's really interesting, because I think in this conversation you've raised two really important things there. One is about the importance of collaboration, in terms of how you've taken your work forward with some key strategic partnerships. And then also, secondly, diversity, because I think part of the reason, coming back to that, in terms of procurement and always procuring the same big businesses, you don't get that diversity of ideas or thought. I mean, like, what would, in terms of those ideas of collaboration and also diversity, what advice would you be giving to the rail industry and advisors and people who are buying stuff, in terms of how they could engage more with SMEs to get this?
I would say they need to be bold. If they've got a vision that they want to do something different, they need to be bold enough to actually follow through with their vision, and that may be engaging with the startups and SMEs that have these grand ideas that may not necessarily have been born from the industry, but they've been born from elsewhere. But accept that, without being bold and doing something different, they're always going to get what they've got. So they need to be aware of that. And if they're fearful that there's going to be some form of failing, then don't be a traditional big corporation that's going to put really hard commercial contracts on the table that the SME just simply can't adhere to. Is maybe be a little bit more flexible and agile with that approach. And if that's still not sufficient to satisfy their lords and masters and their shareholders and investors, then look at it, have open discussions and talk to them, and maybe partner them with one of these previous companies, or at least point them in a direction so that that SME can go and spark the relationships and partnerships themselves. Because as a company, we've matured, and during the maturing of startup to SME, initially you kind of start up this protectionism around, oh, my idea is great, but an idea with no traction and no ability to penetrate a marketplace is just an idea, and it will just fizzle out and die. So the best ideas and the best big ideas are the ones that are shared in a way that you can then get that through into the marketplace. But in order to do that, there is kind of a maturity, and we've gone through that journey.
I think that's really an interesting point that you've raised there, Ben, because I quite often like to call it the ugly baby, because we get approached by a lot of startups and they have an idea that either is new to rail or they're using it somewhere else. Could it work in rail and that? But it's sometimes difficult, as you've already mentioned, to get these things into rail. So what would your advice be for new businesses and startups about how they develop their idea into something that's sellable into rail?
Well, I think it's about the collaboration aspect. It's don't be too protectionist around the idea. Collaborate with organisations that have a much wider reach than you do. But whilst collaborating with these organisations, you've got to have that trust that you're not going to be impacted by a commercial incentive from the other company. You've got to get into a collaboration rather than just joining someone because they've got an ulterior motive behind exploiting it from a commercial background. So it's getting the confidence that actually these big companies they need that injection of ideas. They need that expertise that they don't currently have, because they would have already have done it if they have it. So it's partner and collaborate with companies that will be able to touch a much wider reaching network than you can on your own. Utilize groups such as the Rail Innovation Group, utilize companies like Infinitive Group, where we might be able to help penetrate into the rolling stock market through our networks. It's don't be protective, collaborate, and just get it out there, because an idea is the total of the idea is greater than the sum of the parts of it, and if it doesn't come off the ground, then it will just fizzle out and die, and that will be kind of not what the industry needs at the moment. The industry needs all of the great ideas to get through this really challenging time. So that would be my advice, really, is to not be too protective, partner and collaborate with trusted companies, and get it out there in a wide-reaching manner.
So Ben, right then, taking from that, partner and collaborating and not being protective, what are these good ideas? I want to hear them. What are the ideas? Tell me the secrets.
Well,
what do you come up with?
The interesting parts of where we've come from an organisation that we started as a consultancy, purely just selling our advisory services. The ideas that we've brought back in-house into Infinitive through our own research and development function within the company, we've focused in and around challenges as we saw it, which is not cosmetic. It's lots of innovation that we've seen within the industry is very cosmetic, very surface, and where we touch the market in the space that we operate is in and around the asset, which is open heart surgery, which is what we're trying to do, which is the fundamentals, is making sure that we deliver a available, reliable and maintainable railway that get the customers from A to B on time all the time, rather than an app here and app there. So our products are really focused around improving reliability and availability and how assets are maintained. So the product lines in which we've been developing our own edge computing technology, where we've partnered with some of the big companies. I mentioned one earlier, Lenovo. We could, as an SME, could never reach out further than the likes of Lenovo or Dell, who we're also been in discussions with. So that's an example of a partnership there. And as part of that product line, which is called Ramus for us, we've also been developing our own data harvesting and control devices that we simply couldn't find on the open market. Anything that could touch all of the various different subsystems of trains and other assets in a way that wasn't going to drive huge cost into the railway, and being very limited with its capability and functionality. So we've gone away and developed our own data harvesters and control devices, which is called a remote terminal, and that's been developed and really accelerated through the lockdown as we've been looking back in. So that's kind of our edge computing capability platform, Ramus. We've also developed our own advanced analytics and visualization platform called Artemist. That was on the back of a project that we did for London Underground, where we worked through their maintenance modernisation programme and understood how to exploit their assets, their train assets data, in a way that could predict the health of those units, so they could make timely, informed decisions around how assets are performing. So we then spun out our system called Artemis. The project in which we worked on was called Apollo. So Artemis is the second sibling to Apollo. That's what brought that name. And that's a visualization, advanced analytics, and machine learning, artificial intelligence engine, which is being used within the industry through a number of TOCs and ROSCOs, predicting how assets are likely to fail, the vulnerability of the systems failures. And again, it's to make sure that the assets, the trains, when they're out in service, they're dependable. The passenger is then, and customers that are actually paying to use the service, when they get back to being able to use the service, will get to their destination on time, and they can depend upon the service. And I think that's really important, because the industry needs to get through this and in a way that you can convince people to use the service again. If we go back and we've got the service to the levels that it was, where there'll be train delays or unsure whether or not your train's going to break down and various other things, that's not going to be conducive to people having confidence in getting back to traveling again. So it's really important that we focus on that reliability and availability of assets. And through our platform that we've developed, Artemis, we've been doing that and doing it very, very well. And we've got some very, very happy, pleased customers.
That sounds really exciting. Do you think we'll ever reach the nirvana of being able to, where every train operator or infrastructure operator be able to predict where their failures are and actually prevent them happening, so delays become a thing of the past?
One of the things that I challenge the team, and I've got a team of absolutely talented people, and I'm very lucky that I've got some of the industry unicorns working for Infinitive Group that they just don't exist out there. I challenge the team. I really believe that we should be, as an industry, there shouldn't be any service affecting failures happening in service. We've got to accept that an engineering system will have failures, but we should be aware of it. We should be able to make informed decisions, and we should be able to avoid it actually failing whilst you've got your customers traveling to wherever they want to go. And that's really one of my challenges to the team, is how do we, as part of the supply chain of this, get to that point where we have zero service affecting failures, and that we can avoid those at a time and place where you've got the right resource in place, you've got the right parts, and you've got the right competencies to do it whilst it's in downtime versus when it should be actually being utilized in an operational environment. So I do think we should be able to get there. We should be there now. We're not. If you look at the automotive industry, they're light years ahead of where we are, and so the technology's there to enable us to do so. So it goes back to that point of be bold into the industry. Let's challenge that status quo, and let's get back to zero service affecting failures. Let's deliver the passengers that are paying a lot of money to travel on these, when we can get back to traveling, the best possible service that we can provide them.
Yeah. So can I ask a question about looking back a bit, probably lessons to the future, is your products and services have been within the rail industry for the last few years. Do you think the people have got payback from that? Have you saved anyone money yet?
Yes.
Good.
A number of the projects that we've worked on return huge returns on their investment. The project in which we worked with London Underground saved them circa £80 million over a course of 5 years. So there are huge opportunities, lots of low-hanging fruits to do this. We've recently worked with a Roscoe and a train operating company, which I have to remain nameless because of tight NDAs in that regard. But we looked at some specific engine type failures that were causing them lots of penalties during the summer months, and through our predictions we were able to run back in time, and we pulled out that we could have predicted 80% of these. That's now in use, and they're now starting to avoid those failures in service. So when you get a train failure in service, it's not just costly on the fact that you've now got a disruption to your maintenance service. You've got penalties that are applied to you from Network Rail. You've got, if you're operating on a route where other train operating companies should be utilising that route, that's also going to be compounding the penalties in which you're incurring for those failures. So all of those can be avoided and save money. So it's a very, very difficult business case and a very complicated business case, and we worked with our customers to make sure that there is huge confidence all the way into the finance directors that you will get the payback. It's not just the emperor's new clothes that we're trying to sell here. It's actually genuine, real avoidance of spend and savings, and that's key. Is it's a difference, and what also happens is part of this journey of technology. It impacts on the people and the processes. So what happens whilst you're then starting to mature that thinking? What happens is the split of roles and responsibilities changes. So at the moment, what the industry sees from a kind of a rolling stock asset management type perspective is very peaky workloads, because they're reactionary to failures and things that are happening, rather than being able to smooth it and understand exactly what's going on. So resourcing profiles remain largely the same, but the disciplines and roles change to more a proactive and predictive type of manner, so that then delivers the availability and service. So revenue can go up, for example, customer satisfaction can go up, and there's metrics that you'll know better than I do that, you know, that drives more ticket sales pre-COVID. So it's a very complicated business case, but we've had documented financial savings that have been pushed through.
But now is actually a good time to invest in this type of product, isn't it? Whilst we're thinking about recovery, you know, this is the type of investment that we want to see in the reliability and the availability of assets within the railway. So we're coming to the end of our time. So I guess, you know, sort of like talked a lot about your products and your collaboration and relationship building and that, yeah. And I should imagine now is a very exciting time for you. So what are you looking forward to in the next coming months?
Yeah, it is a really exciting time. It's exciting and daunting all at the same time, in that there is still uncertainty. We've approached that uncertainty through our challenge to the status quo and reinvesting back into the business. So I'm really excited about the talent that we have within Infinitive Group, growing our product lines and reaching that through our ecosystems and our alliance partnerships that we've been cultivating through this challenging time. I think once we get out of this in some level of certainty of where the industry is going, we're looking wider than this. So I'm really excited that, as part of my challenge into the team, is that we've been transport focused and mainly railway. Rail I see as kind of the arterial mechanism of transport, but we're now looking wider than that into the likes of mobility as a service and the veins that come off this artery, such as, you know, buses and light rail and autonomous vehicles and scooters. We're starting to explore how we as Infinitive could maybe adapt to provide modal services through us, through, you know, the collection of data and being able to work along those lines. And then going out wider still, we're really excited about the opportunity that presents itself through smart cities. And I see that as an organisation organically growing in this way, starting from the centre of sort of railway as the centre point, that then provides this ability to bloom out into mobility as a service and smart cities, is where I want to take Infinitive Group, and I'm really excited about that journey.
Blooming, marvellous.
So say overall you're feeling positive?
Yeah, we are feeling positive. We are feeling anxious at the same time, but, you know, we're controlling what we can control. And the only way that we could do that is, like, as I say, invest back on us, control how we come out of this in a way that's conducive to success. That's so yeah. I'm not all doom and gloom. There obviously on the horizon, you know, uncertainty, but we're confident that with the talent that we have within Infinitive Group, it will be
I think that's lovely. I mean, like, I think it's been great catching up with you today, hearing about what you've been doing over the last few months, but also just to hear some happy stories, because I think we could all do with a bit of that. So long may it continue, and thank you for joining with us today.
thank you.
Well,
Okay.
Johannah, that was very positive, wasn't it?
I did. I thought that I was really pleased with that.
So that was partner, collaborate, and I've got the other one. Oh, don't be protective.
Don't be protective. There was lots of positive stuff in their relationship building, lots of good stuff.
Right. So, right, in the spirit of collaboration, what have we got coming up with the Rail Innovation Group?
We are doing a big piece into ticketing. So we're going to be doing some research, we're going to be doing some interviews, and we're going to be holding a roundtable event with some of our members, which will include, who's it going to include, Liam?
special people as yet.
Special people. So special people who have an interest in ticketing and mobility of as a service, I think, so that we can start to shape what innovative things we think should be done with fares and ticketing now that we've got this opportunity within rail industry. So that's our big focus, and why have we gone down that route?
From my memory, because people suggested we did at our micro meet.
Absolutely, that's exactly it. So it wasn't something that we decided to do. It was something that came out very positive in some of the work that we've been doing throughout the last 6 months, through this last survey we did, through the actual micro meet that we were able to do in September, and that was a direction that you, our members, and other people that are interested in thought that we should focus in on, amongst other things. So what are our other subject areas? Sustainability is something that we'll probably look at a bit later. And what was the third topic? Can't remember what the third topic was.
Don't forget innovation.
Innovation. Well, of course, innovation is always the top of our list.
Cool. All right. Well, speak to you next time then, and enjoy your sunny day.
Take care now.
Bye.
Bye.